You think your fancy new car is built to last? Think again. Most of the features they're selling you as upgrades are actually ticking time bombs. And if your car has even one of the 13 I'm about to show you, it's not a question of if something breaks, but when. We're talking about features that destroy engines, drain your wallet with $1,000 repairs, and cause more problems than they solve. The worst one? It'll cost you $1,000 for every dollar it claims to save. Let's start with one of the most hated features car manufacturers ever invented. Number 13. Automatic start-stop systems. So they told you this feature saves the environment and puts money back in your pocket. Here's what they didn't mention. It's going to cost you way more than it saves. Here's the problem. Every time your car stops at a red light, the engine shuts off. Sounds smart, right? But when that light turns green, your starter motor has to fire up the engine again. Now imagine doing this dozens of times during your daily commute. Your starter motor and battery are working overtime. Car companies know this wears things out faster, so they install beefier starter motors and special deep cycle batteries. Some cars even come with 2 batteries. But here's the catch. When one of these specialized batteries dies, you're not paying $150 for a replacement. You're paying $300, maybe $400. And if you've got 2 batteries, double that cost. Then there's what's happening inside your engine. Every time it restarts, there's thermal stress. The oil isn't circulating properly for those first few seconds. Over time, this adds up to increased engine wear. You need to stay on top of your oil changes religiously. Miss that 5,000-mile service, even with full synthetic oil, and you're risking serious engine damage. We're talking $5,000 to replace an engine because you wanted to save a few cents on gas. And here's something nobody talks about, the safety risk. I personally know 3 people who've been rear-ended at lights because their engine was restarting right when traffic started moving. That split-second delay? It's enough to cause an accident. The real kicker? All this trouble saves you maybe $25 a year in fuel costs. $25. Do yourself a favor. Every time you get in your car, hit that button to disable this feature. Your wallet and your mechanic will thank you. Speaking of features that cost more than they're worth, the next one might actually tank your credit score. Number 12. Auto Parking Assist. A study in the UK found that Remote Parking Assist is the least trusted driver assistance feature out there, and drivers have good reason not to trust it. Look, when you've got plenty of space and perfect conditions, auto parking works great. But here's the thing, nobody needs help parking when there's a ton of room. It's like having a swimming instructor in the shallow end of the pool. The real test comes in tight spaces, and that's exactly where this system starts making mistakes. The car relies on sensors and cameras to judge distances and avoid obstacles. In theory, it sounds perfect. In practice, those sensors get confused constantly. I've watched this system misjudge distances by several inches. Shadows throw it off. People walking by confuse it. Faded parking lines make it hesitate. And forget about using it during bad weather when the sensors and cameras are covered in rain or snow. Bay parking is even worse. The system can't always detect if the car next to you is parked at an angle. If you're not keeping your foot on the brake and ready to take over, you could easily clip another vehicle or, even worse, hit someone walking through the parking lot. Then there's the speed issue. This feature takes forever. You'll be sitting there while the car slowly inches into a spot, and meanwhile, traffic is piling up behind you. People are honking. You're sweating. The system is recalculating. It's stressful. Every time this system makes a mistake and you bump another car, that's a claim on your insurance. Your rates go up. Your deductible comes out of your pocket. One person I know had 3 minor incidents with auto parking in a single year. Their insurance premium jumped by $600 annually. Here's my take. Spend that money on a parking lesson instead. Learn to parallel park properly. It's a skill you'll use for life, and it won't cost you thousands in insurance claims. But if you think auto parking is unreliable, wait until you hear about the next feature. This one was designed to prevent accidents, but it causes just as many as it prevents. Number 11. Lane Keep Assist. The marketing materials say Lane Keep Assist reduces crashes by 11%. And sure, in perfect conditions with well-maintained systems, it probably does help. But here's what they don't put in the brochure. This system fails more often than you'd think, and when it fails, the results can be catastrophic. Lane Keep Assist isn't just one component. It's a complex web of technology all working together. You've got forward-facing cameras, radar sensors, steering angle sensors, an electric power steering motor, and multiple control modules all talking to each other. When everything works perfectly, it's impressive. But when just one piece fails, the whole system can go haywire. Most drivers know not to use lane keep in heavy rain, fog, or snow. The cameras can't see the lines, so the system shuts off or gives false inputs. Fair enough. But what about a dirty windshield? Even bug splatter is enough to confuse the camera. I've had the system try to steer me into another lane because a dead bug was blocking part of the camera's view. Sunlight is another issue. Direct sun glare can temporarily blind the camera system. One minute the car is tracking the lane perfectly, the next minute it's drifting because the camera can't see anything. And here's an expensive problem. If you get a crack in your windshield, you can't just replace it with any windshield. The camera is calibrated to your specific windshield. A normal replacement runs about $300. But with Lane Keep Assist, you need a special windshield, plus recalibration at the dealership. That bill can hit $1,000 easily. The system also struggles with real-world conditions. Construction zones with shifted lane markings confuse it. Potholes that you'd naturally avoid? The system wants to drive straight through them to stay in the lane. Cyclists riding close to the line? The system sometimes mistakes them for obstacles and jerks the wheel. Never use this on winding roads or narrow country lanes. The system is designed for highways with clear, straight lanes. Put it on a curvy road, and you're asking for a head-on collision. The car will try to correct you right into oncoming traffic because it's following a line, not using common sense. I've talked to drivers who had their lane keep assist malfunction and yank the wheel unexpectedly. One woman nearly sideswiped a semi-truck on the highway when her system misread the lane markers. Another guy had his car try to steer him into a Jersey barrier during roadwork. The worst part? Many of these systems operate quietly in the background. They'll make small corrections that you barely notice, building up your trust. Then one day, when conditions aren't perfect, they make a big correction at exactly the wrong moment. Number 10. Touchscreen-only controls. Remember when you could adjust your air conditioning without taking your eyes off the road? Those days are gone. Modern cars are ditching physical buttons for sleek touchscreens, and it's creating a massive safety hazard. The problem is simple. You can't feel a touchscreen. With physical buttons, your fingers learn where everything is. You can adjust the volume, change the temperature, or switch radio stations without looking. But with a touchscreen, you have to look at it every single time. Studies show that interacting with a touchscreen takes your eyes off the road for an average of 4 to 5 seconds. At highway speeds, that's enough time to travel the length of a football field completely blind. It's basically texting and driving, except the car manufacturer installed the distraction for you. And these screens freeze. They glitch. They lag. I've been in cars where the touchscreen reboots itself in the middle of driving. Suddenly you have no climate control, no radio, and depending on the car, sometimes no backup camera. One cold morning, a friend's touchscreen completely froze and she couldn't turn on the defrost. She had to pull over and wait 10 minutes for the system to restart. Here's the expensive part. When these touchscreens break, and they will break, you're looking at $1,500 to $3,000 for a replacement. It's not like the old radio where you could swap it out yourself for $200. These screens are integrated into everything. The entire dashboard has to be disassembled. Plus, these screens become outdated fast. 5 years from now, your car's interface will look ancient. But unlike your phone, you can't just upgrade it. You're stuck with 2025 technology in 2030. Number 9. Cylinder deactivation. Car companies love to brag about fuel efficiency. One way they boost those numbers is through cylinder deactivation. Your V8 becomes a V4 when you're cruising, saving fuel. Sounds brilliant, right? In reality, it's an engineering nightmare waiting to destroy your engine. Here's what happens. When the system deactivates cylinders, those cylinders stop firing, but they're still moving. The valves are still opening and closing, but no fuel is going in and no combustion is happening. This creates uneven wear inside your engine. The active cylinders are working hard, while the deactivated ones are just along for the ride. Over time, this causes carbon buildup on the deactivated cylinders. The valve seats wear differently. The cylinder walls develop uneven wear patterns. Eventually, you end up with an engine that burns oil, misfires, or worse. Mechanics see this constantly. The most common issue is lifter failure. The lifters that control the cylinder deactivation system are complex and prone to breaking. When they fail, you'll hear a ticking noise from your engine. Ignore it, and you'll need a full engine rebuild. Fix it, and you're looking at $2,000 to $4,000 in repairs. Some manufacturers have had to extend warranties specifically because of cylinder deactivation problems. That should tell you everything you need to know about how reliable this technology is. And the fuel savings? Maybe 5% in ideal conditions. You'll save about $100 a year in gas. But when that lifter fails, you've just spent 20 to 40 years worth of fuel savings on the repair. Number 8. Electronic parking brake. The traditional handbrake was simple, a lever connected to a cable that pulled your brake pads. If your hydraulic brakes failed, you had a backup. If you needed to make a quick adjustment on a hill, you just pulled the lever. Easy, reliable, and cheap to fix. Now we have electronic parking brakes. Push a button, and a motor engages the rear brakes. It sounds modern and convenient until something goes wrong. These systems fail more often than you'd think. The motors burn out. The control modules glitch. The sensors malfunction. When any of this happens, your parking brake stops working. Sometimes it won't engage. Sometimes it won't release. I've heard of people getting stuck in parking lots because their electronic parking brake wouldn't disengage. The worst part? You can't fix this yourself. You need a dealer or a shop with specific diagnostic tools to reset the system. A traditional handbrake cable costs maybe $50 to replace, and you can do it in your driveway. An electronic parking brake actuator, between $500 and $1,500, and you're paying shop rates for installation. There's also a safety concern. If your car's electrical system fails, your parking brake might not work at all. With a mechanical handbrake, you could still stop the car in an emergency. With an electronic system, you're out of luck. And let's talk about winter. These electronic systems hate cold weather. Ice and salt corrode the motors. People in northern states have constant problems with electronic parking brakes seizing up during winter months. Number 7. Dual clutch transmissions. Dual clutch transmissions were supposed to give you the performance of a manual with the convenience of an automatic. Fast shifts, better fuel economy, sporty driving feel. What they actually give you is jerky performance and massive repair bills. The problem is in how they work. Unlike a traditional automatic with a torque converter, dual clutch systems use actual clutches, just like a manual transmission. These clutches wear out, especially in stop-and-go traffic. Every time you're creeping forward in traffic, those clutches are slipping and wearing down. The jerky shifting is the first sign something's wrong. The car lurches when you're parking. It hesitates when you accelerate from a stop. It feels like someone learning to drive a stick shift. That's the clutches starting to fail. When they do fail, you're looking at $3,000 to $5,000 for a replacement. And this isn't a 150,000-mile problem. Some dual clutch transmissions start having issues at 50,000 miles. I've seen them fail as early as 30,000 miles. Manufacturers know this is a problem. Several brands have extended warranties on their dual clutch transmissions. Some have even bought back cars because the problems were so severe. That should tell you everything about how confident they are in this technology. A traditional automatic transmission will last 200,000 miles with basic maintenance. A dual clutch might not make it to 100,000, and when it goes, you're either paying for a rebuild or replacing the entire transmission. Number 6. Continuously Variable Transmission, CVT. If you hate dual clutch transmissions, wait until you hear about CVTs. These are even worse, and they're in way more cars. A CVT doesn't have gears at all. It uses a belt and pulleys to create infinite gear ratios. In theory, this makes the car more efficient and gives you seamless acceleration. In practice, it feels weird, sounds terrible, and brakes constantly. The first thing you'll notice is the noise. When you accelerate, the engine revs up and just stays there, making a droning sound. It's called the rubber band effect, and it feels completely unnatural. Your brain expects the engine to shift through gears, but it never does. Then there's the reliability. CVT belts wear out. The pulleys wear out. The transmission fluid breaks down faster than in a regular automatic. And when something goes wrong, the entire transmission usually needs to be replaced. Nissan is probably the most notorious for CVT problems. They've had class action lawsuits over failing CVTs. People with 60,000 miles on their cars were getting quoted $4,000 to $7,000 for transmission replacements. Some owners just walked away from their cars because the repair cost more than the car was worth. And here's the thing about CVT fluid. It needs to be changed more often than regular transmission fluid, but most owners don't know this, miss those fluid changes, and you're looking at premature failure. Do the maintenance religiously, and you'll spend hundreds more over the life of the car. The fuel economy benefits are minimal, maybe 1 or 2 miles per gallon better than a regular automatic. But when you factor in the cost of repairs and earlier replacement, you're losing money in the long run. Number 5. Turbochargers. Turbos are everywhere now. Manufacturers are downsizing engines and adding turbochargers to maintain power while improving fuel economy. A turbocharged 4-cylinder replaces what used to be a naturally aspirated V6. Sounds great until the turbo fails. Turbos are tough on engines. They force more air into the combustion chamber, which means higher temperatures and more stress on engine components. This requires better cooling systems, higher quality oil, and more frequent maintenance. The turbo itself spins at incredibly high speeds, sometimes over 100,000 RPM. It runs extremely hot. Over time, the bearings wear out, the seals fail, or the turbine blades get damaged. When this happens, you need a new turbo. A turbo replacement costs between $1,500 and $3,500, depending on the car. And if you ignore the warning signs, like blue smoke from the exhaust or a loss of power, the failing turbo can damage other parts of your engine. Metal fragments from a failed turbo can get sucked into the engine, destroying pistons and cylinders. Turbocharged engines also require premium fuel in many cases. That's an extra 50 cents per gallon, adding up to hundreds of dollars per year. They need synthetic oil, which costs more than conventional oil. And the oil changes need to happen more frequently because the oil breaks down faster under the high heat. Then there's the issue of turbo lag and heat soak. In hot weather or during hard driving, turbocharged engines lose power because they get too hot. The turbo can't cool down fast enough and performance suffers. Number 4. Direct fuel injection. Direct injection is another fuel-saving technology that creates more problems than it solves. Instead of spraying fuel into the intake manifold, direct injection sprays it directly into the combustion chamber. This improves efficiency but causes massive carbon buildup. In a traditional fuel injection system, the fuel washes over the intake valves, keeping them clean. With direct injection, the valves never get that cleaning effect. Carbon deposits build up on the intake valves over time, restricting airflow and reducing performance. Eventually, you'll notice rough idling, misfires, and reduced power. The only fix is to manually clean the intake valves, which requires removing the intake manifold and sometimes the cylinder head. This service costs between $500 and $1,500, and you'll need it done every 50,000 to 80,000 miles. Some cars are worse than others. European brands like Audi, BMW, and Volkswagen are notorious for carbon buildup issues. But even Japanese brands with direct injection have this problem. The other issue with direct injection is the high-pressure fuel pump. These pumps operate at extreme pressures, and when they fail, they can contaminate the entire fuel system. You'll need to replace not just the pump, but sometimes the injectors and fuel lines too. That repair can exceed $2,000. Number 3. All-wheel drive systems. AWD sounds great in theory. Better traction in rain and snow, improved handling, more confidence on the road. But what they don't tell you is how much it costs to maintain and repair. First, there's the fuel economy hit. AWD systems add weight and mechanical friction, reducing your MPG by 1 to 3 miles per gallon. Over the life of the car, that's thousands of dollars in extra fuel costs. Then there's the maintenance. AWD systems have extra differentials, transfer cases, and drive shafts. All of these need fluid changes. Most owners don't even know these services exist, so they skip them. Then at 80,000 miles, the transfer case fails because the fluid was never changed. That's a $2,000 to $4,000 repair. Tire wear is another issue. With AWD, all 4 tires need to be replaced at the same time. If one tire gets damaged and needs to be replaced, you can't just replace one. The difference in tire diameter will cause the AWD system to bind up, potentially damaging the transfer case or differentials. So instead of buying 1 tire, you're buying 4. That turns a $200 expense into an $800 expense. And if you think you need AWD for winter driving, think again. Good winter tires on a front-wheel drive car will outperform all-season tires on an AWD vehicle every single time. You're better off spending $800 on winter tires than dealing with the ongoing costs of AWD. Number 2. Panoramic sunroofs. Panoramic sunroofs look amazing in the showroom. All that natural light, the open feeling, the wow factor. But they're a nightmare waiting to happen. These huge glass panels add weight to the roof, raising the car's center of gravity and reducing fuel economy. They also reduce headroom, which is ironic considering they're supposed to make the car feel more spacious. The biggest problem is leaks. Panoramic sunroofs have drainage channels that are supposed to carry water away. These drains get clogged with leaves and debris, causing water to overflow into the car's interior. I've seen cars with completely soaked headliners, water-damaged electronics, and moldy carpets, all because the sunroof drains were clogged. Cleaning these drains requires removing interior panels and sometimes even the seats. It's a multi-hour job that costs $300 to $500, and you need to do it regularly to prevent problems. If the sunroof mechanism itself breaks, you're looking at $1,500 to $3,000 for repairs. The motors fail, the tracks get jammed, the glass can crack or shatter. And because these sunroofs are so large, replacing the glass is extremely expensive. There's also a safety concern. In a rollover accident, that giant glass roof is a weak point. It's more likely to shatter than a solid metal roof, increasing the risk of ejection and injury. Number 1. Small turbocharged engines. Here's the worst feature of all, those tiny turbocharged engines that manufacturers are putting in everything. A 1.4-liter or 1.5-liter turbocharged 3-cylinder engine in a mid-size SUV. It's madness. These engines are working at their absolute limit all the time. To move a heavy vehicle, they have to boost constantly. The turbo is always spooling, the engine is always under load, and everything is running hot. This creates catastrophic wear. The pistons, bearings, and valves are under extreme stress. The oil breaks down faster. The cooling system is constantly maxed out. These engines are not built to last. Manufacturers pushed these engines to meet fuel economy standards. On paper, they look great. In the real world, they're disasters. Owners report engine failures at 50,000 miles, turbos failing at 40,000 miles, oil consumption problems, coolant leaks, timing chain failures. And because these engines are so small and so stressed, when they fail, they often fail catastrophically. We're talking about complete engine replacements at 60,000 or 70,000 miles. That's a $6,000 to $10,000 repair on a car that's only a few years old. The fuel economy benefits are a lie too. Because these tiny engines work so hard, they don't achieve their EPA ratings in real-world driving. You'll get the same or worse fuel economy than an older, larger, naturally aspirated engine that would have lasted twice as long. This is the feature that costs you $1,000 for every dollar it supposedly saves. You might save $200 a year in fuel, but when the engine needs to be replaced at 70,000 miles instead of lasting 200,000 miles like engines used to, you've lost tens of thousands of dollars. So there you have it, 13 features that car manufacturers sell as upgrades but are actually expensive time bombs. The next time you're shopping for a car, remember, sometimes the basic model with fewer features is actually the smarter choice. Your wallet will thank you 50,000 miles down the road. What's the worst car feature you've dealt with? Drop a comment and let me know. And if you found this helpful, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video.